It's the 27th day of January 2016. I hope you've had a good day wherever you are watching us from across the region. Welcome to Bottomline East Africa. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matola. Let's take a quick look at the top stories we have for you today. Honoring heroes. 3 presidents at a memorial to celebrate the lives of Kenyan soldiers killed in Somalia. Graft Diaries. Not so rosy picture painted about corruption within East Africa by Transparency International. Cracking the whip. The UN proposes sanctions for feuding sides in South Sudan over human rights violations. All right, let's begin right here in Kenya, where 3 African heads of state attended an interfaith memorial in the town of Eldoret for Kenyan soldiers killed by militant Islamist group Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari and Somalia's Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud joined their host, Kenya's Uhuru Kenyatta, at the memorial at a barracks near Eldoret town, from where many of the soldiers were drawn.
I cannot express in words the importance and the role of KDF inside Somalia. But all I can say is, thank you, Kenya, and thank you, Kenya, and thank you, Kenya. We are with you. I want to assure you, we will defeat them, and we will defeat them finally.
Terrorists should not have a place in our communities, villages, towns, cities, and countries. We must all arise against the culture of intolerance, hatred, and extremist ideologies which drive terrorism. We must also be firm against radicalization and all those who promote values and principles that strengthen our unity and cohesion as a people. Together, we can and shall defeat terrorists, their sponsors, and sympathizers.
The men who fell served in difficult circumstances, far from their homes, all to keep us safe. Many of those whom they protect have trouble even imagining how much courage their service demands of them. And yet these patriots stick to their task day after day, night after night. During the Eldoret attack, when the enemy attacked, they fought with great bravery to defend their camp, to protect each other, to defeat an enemy in a foreign land that threatens all of us here at home. Regrettably, many paid the ultimate price. And this is heartbreaking. As a parent, and also as their commander-in-chief, my heart once again goes out to them and to their families and loved ones. Let me express my own and our nation's deepest condolences for this loss. My prayers and the prayers of the nation continue to be with you. I want also today to honor the patriotism and poise of our police officers. They too have played a full part in the war on terror. They too have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Though their work is sometimes overlooked, it is fitting that they too should be remembered on this day.
And our reporter Mercy Kandia in Eldoret has been on that all day today, covering that memorial for us here on KTN News. And she joins me now once again live. Mercy, just wrap up the day's events for us. How important was this? And I know we talked a great deal yesterday about the families of some of those who still don't have any information on the whereabouts of their kin.
Yes, indeed, Yvonne, and probably for the families especially, one message that stood across in terms of the three heads of states is that the president of Nigeria told the families that they share in their sympathy in terms of Nigeria being, prone to attacks from the Boko Haram. They say they share in their sympathy. They know what the families are going through. They've been there before. And the president of Somalia repeating himself over and over saying thank you, especially to the families whose sons gave their lives to be on the forefront in ensuring that Somalia is peaceful. So yes, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta just saying that him being the commander-in-chief of the sons who were out there battling it out in the field and ensuring. But one message stands out, Yvonne, across board in terms of the three heads of state. They have vowed to continue fighting terrorism. Even President Uhuru Kenyatta, Kenya's president, repeating that the KDF soldiers from the Kenya 9th Kenya Rifle, that they will not die in vain, that the fight against terrorism continues. And even calling out to the world to ensure that it's a global fight, president after president again, even saying that terrorism has no walls, has no boundaries, that it's a fight, not only Kenya's fight, but a global fight against terrorism. Yvonne?
Yes, and global. In fact, even as we got reports today of an attack by Boko Haram in Chibok in Nigeria, now that the Nigerian president is here, are we still any closer, Mercy, to knowing the exact number of casualties? Are the families still any closer to getting more information? For example, were names read out so that we're able to say, okay, there are 4, there are 5, there are 6. Are we any closer to being a little bit more informed on the situation?
That's the thing, Yvonne. Part of the message, especially to the families today, probably some information they went home with is consolation in terms of the heads of state, especially even from Somalia, just being thankful that their sons were there and sharing that his country is at peace. But very little information, Yvonne, in terms of if any of the names have been mentioned yet, how many probably are still missing or not. That part information, that part, Yvonne, is still very not yet known in terms of the families. They actually, the event was actually supposed to start at about 1:30. It delayed. Even the families were very patient. Event starting at about 4:30 in the evening. Still, all the family were there seated, waiting anxiously. But we could say, Yvonne, that they went home with encouraged, knowing that the heads of state appreciate that their sons were out there, keeping these countries at peace. Yvonne?
Thanks very much for that, Mercy Kandia in Eldoret, and thank you for your great reporting throughout the day on that memorial in Eldoret that was witnessed by 3 African heads of state. Meanwhile, AMISOM Acting Force Commander Major General Nakibus Lakara has visited the Eldoret military base in Somalia, where an unknown number of Kenyan soldiers were killed by the Al-Shabaab militants, with a strong statement that AMISOM will strike back at the terrorist group with an even more lethal force. General Lakara said the attack was a provocation on AMISOM forces, which are friendly to the Somali citizens, and one which has now emboldened his soldiers to strike back more fiercely at the Al-Shabaab. Here's Trix Ngado with that story.
We shall remain committed to the mission in Somalia until the Al-Shabaab insurgency is destroyed, a statement by the AMISOM Major General Nakibus Lakara that perhaps reflects the AMISOM's unrelenting determination in its fight against the Al-Shabaab. Major General Lakara was speaking during a tour of Eldoret and other forward AMISOM bases in Sector 2 and 3. He reiterated that the force will remain true to its primary mandate of fighting terrorism. The tour by the acting force commander and officers of the AMISOM force headquarters was aimed at assessing the general situation in the bases and operations being executed by AMISOM troops in the region. In particular, the visit to Eldoret was meant to make an appraisal of ongoing search and rescue mission and recovery operations by AMISOM KDF troops who retook the base after the attack. The duty call was also to commensurate with show solidarity and encourage the troops.
It's our responsibility as commanders to be able to visit the troops on the ground. Not in the particular case, of course, yes, Kenya, the Kenyan camp, but also other camps. I've been to Sector 5, Sector 4, Sector 3. But this gives you a feel of what is on the ground. But it was also really to commiserate with our Kenyan comrades.
He also expressed that AMISOM was not a peacekeeping mission but a peace enforcing mission, adding the casualties do arise given the nature of the task at hand. AMISOM troops' honors was to minimize those casualties by taking out the enemy. In his remarks, he noted the need for the Somali people to involve themselves in the process of bringing peace to Somalia.
AMISOM is not a peacekeeping mission. AMISOM is a war-fighting mission. So from deployment, you know you've come to fight. And in a fight, of course, there are casualties. But what is important for AMISOM is to ensure that those casualties are to the minimum acceptable.
It is important for the Somali people to note that this happened, but AMISOM is back on the ground.
He implored all AMISOM troops to use the Eldoret attack to re-strategize the battle against terror.
This is the time to ensure that that support is consolidated, that we are invigorated, we are emboldened to pursue this enemy to wherever he goes.
The tour comes after Kenyan AMISOM troops came under attack on January the 15th, killing an undisclosed number of troops. Trix Ingado, KTN News, Nairobi.
Still on terrorism, there is public outcry in Ghana following a decision to transfer 2 Yemeni detainees held for more than a decade at the U.S. military prison in Guantanamo Bay in Cuba to Ghana. Many say they view the men as a security threat to the West African nation, located in a region struggling to cope with the rise of several militant insurgencies. Ashley Mazuri has more.
After evading the Islamist threat in West Africa targeting Mali, Nigeria, Cameroon and Burkina Faso, a section of Ghanaians say they're experiencing a new threat. Ghana residents have reacted strongly to the transfer of Yemeni detainees held for more than a decade at the U.S. military prison to the country, claiming the detainees' presence may pose a security threat.
To me, I'm not happy they are being in Ghana here. Anything can happen. And if anything happens, we the Ghanaians, we the poor people who suffer for it. Then they also get where to go. But now they also have their plane ticket and passport and everything. So if in case anything happens to Ghana, the poor will be facing the trouble and we will suffer a lot. So we're not happy for what our leaders are doing so far.
There's a force somewhere pushing the president to do what he's doing without consulting the parliament. And which the parliament, even if they should have disagree with it, which he maybe might not take their decision. That is why he just have to do it without the consent of the parliament. Because the Western world controlled Africa most than our own decisions.
Ghana's President John Mahama assured his citizens that the 2 men posed no threat and would be monitored. The country received no money for taking them, but would benefit from information from the U.S. about people arriving in Ghana that could pose a threat. Despite Ghana being a peaceful democracy, the country faces various concerns about militant Islamists in neighboring countries. For years, Islamic militants have used northern Mali as a base, but over the past year, they have staged a number of attacks in other parts of the country and on neighboring countries.
But if you look at what is happening along the Sahel region, the Horn of Africa, the Gulf of Guinea, whether it's at the level of piracy, whether it's at the level of kidnapping, whether it's the level of terrorism, Africa is under threat. And I think that the soil is fertile. And that's the greatest problem. if you look at all the indicators that could lead to violent extremism, most of them are present today.
Dozens of countries have